good morning, everybody. I hope you all are blessed and highly favored. I know I am. All right, so it's just gonna be me this morning, and I thought I would start by giving you all a look at a part of my studio you've never seen before. Some of you all have, but a lot of you all haven't. This is just above where Margs and sometimes the guest normally sits. That's what it looks like. A couple of you all have asked me via email. Yes, I've just gotten to reading it. I apologize. You asked a few months ago. But it was in my junk. It was in my junk folder. And something else was in my junk folder. And I read it. And I thought, wow. I've been sitting on this piece of bad boy piece of information for a while now. I apologize for not getting to it earlier, but like I just said, it was in my junk folder. I don't know why it was in my junk folder, but it was there. So I have decided to make this topic of the day. And I'm going to read out the email to y'all. I'll read it slowly. If it is you need me to read it again, I will read it again. And I want you all to share your thoughts. Now, I've made the Discord open, available, because today is going to be one of the longest days for me, like work-wise. I have got an extremely long day. I am getting back to this studio at 1 a.m. I just know it. But it's all good. It's all good. So the quicker I get to finish this particular broadcast, the quicker I can start with the tasks in front of me. So if you don't want this to be an extremely short episode just with headlines, then please join me on Discord after reading this email out. Shout out to all of my beloved TDA hosts. Some are on holiday, some are looking after their loved ones. And I will always appreciate them, even though I don't always say it. Shout out to the researchers each and every mother effing day, doing that silent work, that important work, that vital work. I see you. I see you, even though sometimes I don't make that clear. But all of that is going to change. All of that is going to change. I love you all daily. Your silent sacrifice is not going to go unnoticed any longer. Shout you, man and woman, out, and them and they, whoever you guys identify. I am going to read out the headlines. I am going to make sure I do all the headlines before I move on to the email to give enough people time to log in and get acquainted with the program today. I'll repeat, it's just me today, and I'm going to be reading out an email that has been sitting in my junk box for months, and I apologize. But today, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it. What else? Is there any other admin? I don't think there is. Emmanuel has provided a topic of the day for today. It's a video of Brigitte like slapping or fondling or playfully touching her husband's face in public. And I think there are a few questions that he's put here. So I'm going to throw that into. Even if it is that you all may not respond to the email or want to participate, either because it's triggering or you just don't want to contribute, that's fine. Maybe you'll contribute to the video that Iman has put for topic of the day. But we'll see. Let's get this cracking. All right, let's get into the headlines. Okie dokie. Let's see. First one, man arrested on suspicion of attempted murder and drug offenses. A suspect detained after a car struck pedestrians at a Liverpool FC trophy parade was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder, dangerous driving, and driving while unfit through drugs. Madman. The 53-year-old is described as white British and from the West Derby area of Liverpool. Police say 11 people are still being treated in hospital and are recovering well. A total of 65 people were injured. Detectives have said the incident is not being treated as terror-related and no further suspects are being sought. The arrested man remains in custody and is being interviewed by officers. Second headline, Reeves in standoff with ministers over proposed cuts to public services. The Treasury is in a standoff with some ministers over proposed cuts to public services, including policing and social housing, as the International Monetary Fund suggested the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, could give herself more flexibility to hit her fiscal rules. It said the Chancellor should examine ways to avoid having to make short-term savings when there is a downturn in economic forecasts. Reeves has tweaked the rules already to allow more borrowing for capital investment. It's expected to equal £113 billion. There are also clashes between Reeves and the Housing Secretary, Angela Rayner, over funding for social housing. The Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, is also understood to be still fighting to keep cash for a major program of insulation, which was a key part of the government's net zero strategy though his department is expected to get significant capital investment in energy infrastructure, including nuclear. All right, third headline. Ex-DR Congo president returns from self-imposed exile, party says. So, former Democratic Republic of Congo President Joseph Kabila is back in the country for the first time in 2 years, having arrived in the rebel-held eastern city of Goma, spokespeople for the rebels have said. Kabila's arrival comes after senators stripped him of his immunity over alleged support for the Rwanda-backed M23 rebel group, which has been fighting the Congolese army. The 53-year-old the 53-year-old led DR Congo for 18 years after succeeding his father, Laurent, who was shot dead in 2001. He handed power to President Felix in 2019, but they later fell out. The Congolese authorities accuse Kabila of war crimes and treason, alleging there is a substantial body of documents, testimony, and material facts that link the former leader to the M23. Since the beginning of this year, the M23 has made major advances in the mineral-rich East, including taking Goma in January. The conflict has led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of civilians in the last few months. Kabila has been living in South Africa for the past 2 years. Last month, he said he would be returning to help find a solution to the conflict. All right, let me break that up by just introducing Emmanuel's topic of the day. All right, so we've got a video to play. If you all haven't already seen this, you're going to now. All right, let's go. One more time. One more time. All right, there you go. That is the video. That is the video. All right. And the questions Emmanuel has put for us are as follows. If you were Emmanuel Macron, how would you have responded at that moment? Did he handle it perfectly? Secondly, do you think this would have gone viral or been viewed differently if it was a male politician lightly slapping his wife on camera? Why or why not? And finally, what does this say about Candace Owens' view on who really wears the trousers in that household? I'll repeat the questions. If you were Emmanuel Macron, how would you have responded at that moment? Did he handle it perfectly? Secondly, do you think this would have gone viral or been viewed differently if it was a male politician lightly slapping his wife on camera? Why or why not? And finally, what does this say about Candace Owens' view on who really wears the trousers in that household? All right, cool. So y'all can mull over those particular questions. If anybody wants to join the Discord to answer any of those questions, please do. Until it is I see anybody in Discord, I'm moving on to the next headlines. Like I said today, it's just me today. I will be reading out an email that somebody sent in a few months ago. It obviously informed the title and thumbnail of this particular broadcast. And I have a set of follow-up questions plucked from that particular email to ask anybody who is willing to join my Discord. If nobody joins me on Discord at the end of me reading that email, I am telling you, I will say adieu and I am gone. I have one of the longest days of my life today. So the quicker I finish here, the quicker I start my tasks. All right, let's move on to the next set of headlines. All right. SpaceX Starship rocket spins out of control on test flight, marking third failure in a row. A test flight of SpaceX's Starship rocket has failed for the third time in a row. It began spinning out of control about 30 minutes after its launch because of fuel leaks, meaning it broke up on a re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. There had been hopes of a successful mission as the rocks... That's not right. The mouse is over T and E. Let me start that again. There had been hopes of a successful mission as the rocket had progressed beyond the point of explosive past failures in January and March. But plans to release a series of mock satellites after liftoff were abandoned because its payload door failed to open fully. While it was meant to make a soft landing, it ended up slamming into the Gulf of Mexico. SpaceX hopes that Starship will one day be used to ferry people and cargo to Mars. But this latest setback plunges Elon Musk's ambition into doubt. Failed launches earlier this year disrupted dozens of flights across the US, and the project was grounded for 2 months while an investigation took place. Musk was due to update the world on his space exploration ambitions later, but the event has been delayed without explanation. I wonder if I was there making rockets and that, and I was the only one making rockets in the US, going into outer space as a civilian, obviously, a private civilian and that. If I'll be there, like coming to the podium and then, you know, telling people as to why things blew up time and time again. I don't know if I'll do that. I might get tired. Maybe I'll appoint somebody to go and do that. I'm using my money. So what do I owe them? I gave them a fireworks display. Yeah, maybe I would. Maybe I would have crowdfunded the entire project anyway. So I have to. I don't know. But anyway, this failure doesn't mean anything other than him being able to gather more information on what went wrong, so you can implement it further. That's how inventions and progress is supposed to look. Anyway, I guess it's the 5th headline now. Trigger warning. Talking about Sean Diddy and that. So Sean Diddy Combs kidnapped aide at gunpoint to confront rival rapper Kid Cudi. The more I follow this stuff, the more I can see how this racketeering thing is going to literally slap him up. I hope everybody is following the right channels because they're kind of piecing it together properly. They're showing how the racketeering accusation is literally holding weight. But here we go. Sean Diddy Combs kidnapped a former aide at gunpoint. And I think also interviewing other people that have been part of his organization, his enterprise, it takes the bulk of the attention away from what a lot of people were thinking it was all about, which was the quote-unquote abuse of Cassie. It shows that he is a piece of shite all across the board to many different people. And hearing the accounts of his past assistants and whatnot, you start to understand it's more than just how he toe punts women. It's more than just how he's a sexual deviant. Not kink shaming, mind you, not kink shaming, but semen on nipples, semen of another man on his nipples is crazy. Okay, we have, is it Sarah? Hello, good morning, Sarah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let's see if it is that you can find your way on Discord. Audience. From audience to the stage. From audience to the stage. I'll wait. In the meantime, I'll kick on with the article. All right. Sean Diddy Combs kidnapped a former aide at gunpoint to join him as he attempted to confront love rival rapper Kid Cudi. Love rival. It sounds like a Daily Mail article. Love rival. Capricorn Clark, who worked for the Bad Boy Records co-founder in different roles on and off for several years, told the court he banged on her door and told her, "Get dressed, we're going to kill Miss Cudi," or Mess Cudi, however you pronounce that. Kid Cudi, whose real name is Scott Miscuddy, last week testified himself about the alleged incident in December 2011. Miss Clark was tearful as she gave evidence, which marked the start of the third week of the high-profile trial. She said she warned Cassie about seeing Cudi, saying she took her to buy a burner phone as she thought it could be dangerous given how Combs might react. The way she was moving, she was going to get us all killed, Miss Clark said. In the aftermath of this incident, Miss Clark alleged Combs came at Cassie with 100% full force, repeatedly kicking her while she crouched more and more into a fetal position and cried silently. Combs, 55, who has pleaded not guilty to charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution, is accused of subjecting his former long-term partner, Cassie, and others to years of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. The trial continues today, with evidence expected from LA police and fire officers. If convicted, Combs could face between 15 years and life in prison. And the sixth headline is as follows. Peter Mandelson regrets association with Jeffrey Epstein. Peter Mandelson, the UK ambassador to the US, said he regrets his association with convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein in an interview with Sky News. His connection to Epstein was detailed in 2019 JP Morgan report filed in a New York court. The same year, Epstein died by suicide while awaiting trial for sex trafficking minors. Epstein had previously served 18 months in prison after pleading guilty to procuring, that's one of the difficult words I always slip up on, procuring a minor for prostitution. The JP Morgan report suggests Mandelson stayed at Epstein's Manhattan apartment while Epstein was serving that sentence. At the time, Mandelson was the UK business secretary under Prime Minister Gordon Brown. When asked by Sky News if he stayed at Epstein's flat during that period, Mandelson refused to confirm, stating, "I'm not answering any questions about him. My knowledge of him is something I regret. I wish I'd never met him in the first place." Pressed on why he associated with Epstein during his imprisonment, Mandelson responded, "Why did many people meet him? He was a prolific networker. That's why. And I wish I'd never met him in the first place." Okay. Now we're moving on to the last set of headlines. All right. US, Argentina. What? Argentina. US, Argentina launching new alternative to WHO. I think WHO is the World Health Organization. All right. So the top health authorities of the US and Argentina are launching what they call an alternative international health system, separate from the World Health Organization. On the first day of his second term, President Trump signed an executive starting. Maybe it's stating. Well, I'm going to read it as starting. Trump signed an executive starting the year process of withdrawing the U.S. from the WHO. In February, Argentinian President Javier Milei followed the suit. The WHO was responsible for collecting and disseminating data about the spread of the coronavirus during the pandemic, but retrospective observations have identified areas where the international group fell short. On a post on the social media platform X, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., said he met with Milley to discuss the creation of an alternative international health system based on gold standard science and free-form totalitarian impulses, corruption and political control. I'll read that again. On a post on the social media platform X, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said he met with Milley to discuss the creation of an alternative international health system based on gold standard science and free from totalitarian impulses, corruption, and political control. Next headline. Macron's marital shove disappears from French airwaves. A brief viral video showed Brigitte Macron pushing President Emmanuel Macron's face as he prepared to deplane in Vietnam. It aired widely for 24 hours in France, but quickly faded from the news cycle. Despite its viral nature, no major French newspaper featured the incident on its front page, highlighting France's cultural norm of protecting politicians' private lives. This tradition has historically shielded personal scandals such as President Francois M's secret daughter and Dominique Strauss-Kahn's womanizing from excessive media scrutiny. Strauss-Kahn's career ended. Sorry, hold up. I just pressed something and it's just disappeared. It's back. All right. This tradition has historically shielded personal scandals such as President Francois' secret daughter and Dominique Strauss's womanizing from excessive media scrutiny. Strauss-Kahn's career ended only when he was arrested for sexual assault in New York in 2011. I haven't read that so long. Not because of long-standing rumors in France. In 2014, photos of President Francois visiting his girlfriend while still living with another partner made headlines, but media quickly backed off after his office decried the invasion of privacy. The Macron video received brief attention from French media before they moved on, consistent with this long-standing approach. Macron's relationship with Brigitte was always unconventional. They met when he was 15, and she was his married drama teacher, 25 years older. Their romance was openly, I did pause for dramatic effect. Their romance was openly celebrated during his 2017 campaign, with media portraying it as modern, brave, and loving. Critics were often dismissed as misogynistic. After the video from Vietnam surfaced, the couple appeared united later that day, walking hand in hand in Hanoi, likely to dispel rumors. In 2024, Candace Owens amplified a baseless conspiracy theory about Brigitte Macron and her identity, calling it a major scandal and releasing multiple YouTube videos on the subject. I watched them all. Brigitte has taken legal action against two French women who spread the rumor, and President Macron publicly condemned the disinformation. All right, final headline before I read the email. Trump considers new sanctions on Russia. Vladimir Putin promised Donald Trump a memorandum of peace outlining Russia's ceasefire terms with Ukraine. But over a week later, it still hasn't been delivered. Trump, frustrated by the delay and continued Russian attacks, is now considering new sanctions on Moscow. On Truth Social, he warned, "If it weren't for me, lots of really bad things would have already happened to Russia. He's playing with fire. Russian official Dmitry Medvedev replied on X, I only know of one really bad thing, World War III. Trump's envoy with Kellogg responded, pressing Russia to send the memo and stop the violence. The memo was expected to go to both Ukraine and the US, showing Trump still sees America as part of the negotiation process. Russia's foreign minister claims the draft is being finalized and will be sent to Kiev soon, with hopes Ukraine shares its own version in return. Meanwhile, over 80 US senators back a bipartisan bill proposing sweeping new penalties, including 500% tariffs on countries that continue buying Russian energy. Senator Blumenthal said, the bill was shaped with strong support from European allies, including Germany, France, and the UK. Despite earlier talk of getting tougher on Russia, Trump recently told European leaders he's holding off on sanctions for now, worried they might shut down peace talks. French President Emmanuel Macron, frustrated with the delay and Putin's behavior, urged Trump to stop holding back and take action. All right. We have come to the end of our headlines. I repeat, we have come to the end of our headlines. For those who've just arrived, shout you all out. It's just me today, and I am going to be reading out an email sent in by somebody in the community a few months ago. I stumbled onto it last night, and I thought it's pressing to share. I have generated a few questions off the back of reading the email for further discussion, debate, whatever. Now, I'm going to read out this email. If after I've read out the email, there is nobody in the Discord to share their thoughts on the email or just be present to help answer some of the questions that I have whipped up, I will be jumping into the wrap up, and I will be bidding you all adieu. All right, so let's get into this email. I am going to read it as slowly as I can without losing track. Sometimes when I speak too slow, it's too slow for me. But let's see. Let's get back into my my acting days. I don't think I told you I went to the Brit Academy. Yeah, I was too good. They kicked me out. But I learned a few things. Never to bring my skill set and talent where it's not needed. Anyway, I shall begin. The subject reads, from a tired black British man. I thought that was quite striking. From a tired black British man. All right. I've been listening to this podcast for a couple years now. Week after week, I've heard the conversations, the debates, the call-ins, the laughter, the pain, the fire. Oh boy. And it's helped. But after one recent episode, and bear in mind, I have responded to him. I have asked him for more context on certain things, right? as I love. I love context, right? I even want to know what recent episode this was. I tried to trace back to the date in which he said this and the corresponding episode, but it was such an arbitrary episode that anyway, I have responded to him and hopefully he gives me more information. And I hope you're listening now. If it is you're listening now, I beg you to jump on the Discord. I don't know how to mask your voice or anything, but surely nobody knows you, bro. So you shouldn't mind. So jump on Discord, please. Let me start again. And I won't interrupt next time, sorry. The subject says, from a tired black British man. I've been listening to this podcast for a couple years now, week after week. I've heard the conversations, the debates, the call-ins, the laughter, the pain, the fire, and it's helped. But after one recent episode, I was chatting with a few of my boys. We all listen, by the way. Shout out you, man. And the convo just got deep. We're all different kinds of men. Some of us are in relationships with black women. Some aren't. Boo. Some have walked away. Some are still trying. Some are confused. But what we all had in common that day was the feeling that we're not being heard. That the war between black men and black women is becoming unbearable. So I told them I'd write in. Not to speak for all of us, but to at least lay something on the table that might spark a real dialogue. So here it is. I want to say this without being dragged, without it being reduced to a tweet, without you assuming I hate you, because I don't. But I do think something is deeply broken between us. I'm not talking about you, the individual. I'm talking about us, the collective. Black men, black women. The love we're supposed to know. The love that once felt unshakable. That love is now bleeding. And we're both pretending it isn't. I write this as a tired black man, but not just my version of tired. There are many of us, and we don't all think the same. But somehow, no matter where we fall on the spectrum, we keep ending up in this war. Some of us, we've walked away from relationships with black women, feeling like we were constantly being asked to become something else, a provider, a therapist, a rock, a sponge, all while trying to survive racism, capitalism, and our own trauma. Some of us are tired of being told that we don't lead well enough, love well enough, earn enough, express enough. And when we do try to lead, we're told we're controlling. Others of us have left the community completely. Boo. Not because we don't love blackness, but because we got tired of always feeling like we're in a fight. Tired of proving our manhood. Tired of our vulnerability being used against us. So we found softness where we could. And yes, sometimes that softness didn't come with melanin. It's not about white is better. It's about this doesn't hurt as much. And maybe that's selfish. Maybe it's weak. But it's real. It's real. Some of us are quiet. We stay. We show up. We love you deeply. even if you can't always see it. But we're scared. Scared to speak our needs, scared to express softness, scared of being ridiculed as broke, basic, or beneath you. And then there are some of us who do speak up. And the moment we say, I need peace, it's taken as an attack. The moment we ask for submission, we're accused of craving control. The moment we say, you don't listen, the counter is, you don't lead. So where does that leave us? Caught in a power struggle neither of us signed up for. You say we don't protect you, and sometimes that's true. You say we don't lead, and sometimes we haven't. But sometimes we do show up, and you still treat us like we're disposable. You still compare us to men who've already hurt you. You still look at us with suspicion, like we're trying to rob you of your independence just for asking to be seen. Some of you say we're too emotional, that we talk too much, that we have too many podcasts. But silence was killing us. And now, even our words are being mocked. You want us healed, but only if the healing is quiet, neat, and doesn't inconvenience your process. And I ask you, not to provoke, but to understand. Do you want to build with us or build around us? We get told to man up, but the definition of man keeps shifting. 1 minute you want a leader, next you want a partner, then a soft man, then an alpha, but not that kind of alpha. It's like loving us has turned into managing us. And still, we love you. We want you. But we are drowning in confusion, pressure, and pain. And we don't always know how to reach you without being blamed for things we are still unlearning. So, this letter isn't about blame. It's about grief. We are grieving the bond we used to have. The unspoken rhythm, the warmth, the knowing. We don't have that anymore. We have TikToks and think pieces and dating podcasts masquerading as healing. But when was the last time we actually sat across from one another and asked, what are we doing to each other? What are we becoming? I'll end by saying this. We don't want enemies. We want allies. We want love that doesn't feel like a test. We want to know that if we fall apart in your arms, we won't be laughed at behind closed doors. We want to trust you and be trusted. We are not perfect. We've failed you. We are not perfect. We've failed you. But we are not all the same. And you're not all the same either. Can we start again? Not with romance, but with truth? And he signs off with tired hope and ends with a collective of black British men still holding on. Now, I thought that was a very, very powerful email. If you want me to read it out again, please let me know by saying yes in the chat. If I see 10 yeses, I will read it out again. If I don't, then I will look at Discord and see if anybody is turned up. I'm telling you, if nobody is here, I'm moving into the wrap up and I am gone. Eddie's here, so I guess you'll want to hear from Eddie. Let me just invite Eddie up. Let him talk about this. Good morning, Eddie.
Good morning, Brent.
How are you
doing?
I'm
Good,
fine.
good.
I'm fine. I'm blessed and highly favored. Thank you very much for answering the call and turning up to Discord. What are your thoughts on the email that you have just heard?
Well, I appreciate what he said. The problem with that is that he doesn't understand that the women are hurt. Okay, so he's just taking it too personally, kind of.
Is that the only thing you got from that? Any other thoughts?
Yes, I think he has to understand where the women are coming from and that they're hurt as well.
Okay, so any other thoughts?
That's it. Except that the men should take more accountability as well.
It sounds like an email with a lot of accountability, like shared. No.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's true. It's just that he should understand the woman more. That they're also the ones who are hurt.
Fair. Good morning. Thank you very much, Eddie. Good morning, Christy. How are you?
Morning.
Oh, how are you?
Morning, Christy.
Morning, Eddie. I'm so tired.
Sorry, I can hear it in your voice. All right, cool. What are your thoughts upon hearing that, Christy?
There's so much to unpack.
There is a lot, isn't there?
I can't lie, Brent. There needs to be a part 2.
There will be a part 2. I'm probably gonna read it again when it is at like more of the team are in. But when it is, I read it. I'm like, ooh, this is a good one. I did think that Emmanuel was going to be in today, so at least I thought there was going to be somebody else here to basically go back and forth. But alas, I am just me. So sorry.
Yeah, I don't even know where to stop, to be honest. Because I'll be having conversations with I have a particular friend I had a recent conversation where this kind of topic kind of came up. I don't know where things have. Me personally, I blame that devil app. That devil app that got made during a vulnerable time in our lives. That Clubhouse app. People think I'm joking, but I'm genuinely being serious.
I actually thought you meant Twitter, but you're talking about Clubhouse. Okay.
No, okay. Yeah, but Brent, I'm not on Twitter, so I guess I can't. I personally don't need to engage in Twitter. That's not my bag.
Yeah.
I've never downloaded that app. Never will. Don't see the point. It does nothing for me.
Yeah.
I don't think it will. So, me personally, I don't need people to hear my thoughts every single time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I can have these conversations with my friends.
Yeah.
I can keep it in a group chat. and keep it moving. So Twitter wouldn't do anything for me. But I feel like I personally pinpoint, and I guess, oh yes, Twitter is definitely a thing, but obviously because I'm not on Twitter, I can't really speak to it.
Yeah.
But obviously I know there's toxicity running rife there. But I generally feel like the COVID, for me personally, when COVID hit and we were all locked down, I feel like that's when things were brewing.
Yeah.
And everyone just had time on their hands. And you know, when what's the saying? Devil makes Mate, the devil was roaming on the app. I'm telling you, he was having a time on the app. He was having a time. Because I remember I said to you, Brent, like when I was hearing certain discourse, I was just like, wow, is this what's on people's minds, or is it because we're all locked down and this is just or was this a thing before? Because again, to me, in real life, there's people I surround myself with. I know some people, Black Rob will be like, oh, I'm in the echo chamber.
Yeah.
I don't care. I like my echo chamber because I genuinely relate to the people who I speak to, and these are not the conversations that we're having. So it's not we're gathered around, even my female friends, we're not gathered around in like a coven with pitchforks talking about this, that, and like that's not really the conversations.
Yeah.
So, and even with the guys that I've related to or who I know, like who I'm friendly with or friends with or acquaintances, again, that's not really been the conversation. Like it's never been a thing of conflict. Obviously, you might get a silly conversation just for entertainment purposes, but it's never really that deep. And again, I'm also surrounded by men who like Black women. So I never knew until Clubhouse that there was such a perceived hatred brewing. And I genuinely don't think the Americans didn't help. So obviously, I feel like before we weren't as accessible to American discourse. I get it, there's Twitter, but I'm just saying in terms of hearing Americans' voices like live in that app, they did not help that discourse. Because there's certain things I was hearing from certain even women there, I'm just like, how did we get here? And again, I feel like certain figureheads also didn't help when they popped up during that time, i.e. like a Kevin Samuels. I know that's some men's god. So if I speak against him, they're gonna be shaking in their boots. Sorry, he did not help the discourse. I don't care what anybody says.
Exactly, he did not help.
He did not help. I feel like the race to get content out and the race to rage bait and to at the expense of us as a race that's kind of been what it is. So it's like content is obviously I watch podcasts where they say content COE, content over everything. And I definitely feel like that has been an issue where people are just running to be content, but it's kind of at the expense of us. And I feel like and I'm saying, when I say us, as in the Black community, and I feel like we weren't really at a level where the content over everything would help. We weren't at that level. And not to say we didn't have issues back in the day, or not to say that we were perfect, but I feel like generally, I don't feel like the social discourse or just the creation of social platforms and set us up just didn't help us. And I don't know what's going on in other communities. I'm not there. I can only tell what's going on here, but it's not done us good. And because people have kind of profited of this kind of content, it's just being pushed it's just being pushed further and further, and it's creating this kind of discourse. And I don't know where to go from here, to be honest with you. Because again, I don't generally having the conversations like. For me, when I get people think when I say black over everything, I'm just chatting. I'm not just chatting because I genuinely believe. I think I've said this before. I genuinely believe, like at the end of the day, to me, are you speaking for me? As a community, I need black men, and I feel like black men need women. It's black women. It's that simple for me. It's literally that simple for me, and because I'm only focused on that. I'm going for the bigger picture. All this talk, to me, it's not helping. I don't walk around my life. Any bad experience I've had with because only experience I can have is a black man because that's all I'm interested in. So if I've had a bad experience, I genuinely don't take that internally. That's a person to person relationship. It is what's happened, and I move on, and I don't need to tar the rest of my race with such a stigma. To me, it's an individual to individual basis, and that's how I genuinely look at it. So I don't get caught up in, oh my gosh, black men are this, oh my gosh, or the whole black women and whatever. For me, if it's got to a point where you are so fed up that you need to go outside. I don't know. I can never be that fed up that I'm seeking outside. It will just never happen. It can never happen. I don't know that. I don't understand. I don't know how that helps us. But again, I'm not a black man, so I can't. It's annoying to me because I just feel like if we're dealing with individuals. Yeah, it's like I haven't met every black man in as much as the UK and London is small. I actually have not met every black man in London, right? Let alone the UK. So
exactly,
right.
Again, the people I've come across, generally, this is not the conversations I'm having. This is not. I've not. They generally like black women, so I can't really relate to the visceral reactions that people have when these comments are online. And again, I feel like online has become a space where people just get off anything. And again, it fuels the machine, it fuels the algorithms, and once the algorithms get fed, it's non-stop. It's just a never-ending cycle. So because the algorithms are getting fed with all of this, and this is what's coming up, it's just causing more harm personally. And that's why personally I don't engage in like a Twitter or even with certain posts come up on Insta stuff, I don't even need to comment. I don't need to. It's just not because I already know what's going to be in the comments, so I just don't even bother because I know the sentiments that's going to be in the chat, and for me, that's not healthy. So I just don't. I won't even partake. Again, if I need to have comments, I go to my group chat. I can vent to my group chat. We can have these conversations in the group chat amongst ourselves. I don't need the public discourse on it. But I genuinely feel like people are so consumed. I think Ronna said it. People are consumed with being heard online, being seen online. That's not my story. I'm fine with being seen with the people I relate to in real life. I'm seen by them. I'm heard by them. So this I genuinely can't relate to that. So because people are so caught up in that, I feel like that is also it's permeating or it's influencing their ideologies and stuff like that. Like generally, if you talk to just normal regular people, I kid you not, they're not waking up every day hating black women. It's not their goal to wake up and be like, oh my god, like I don't know, like I don't know. I don't know if that's helped or whatever, but I'm just saying from my perspective.
It definitely.
I'm generally not around those type of people.
It definitely has.
And that's why I like to say I live in an echo chamber and I love it here. Because I'm not having these kind of conversations and it does me well. I'm surrounded by people. I'm surrounded by people who love black people and want us to win. The most we're talking about is how to like as a whole Africa needs to fix up, or as a whole Caribbean needs to fix up. Like we need to get somewhere, not this women to men. Like I don't know. I don't know.
Thank you so far. Timmy says, regardless of my man's argument, the fact that he mentioned his dairy affiliations, black women ain't ready to listen to his concerns, or any man's for that matter. Now, I think he did say that he spoke to a few of his boys. Some are with black women, some have left the community. I don't know if he stated that he was that way inclined. But are you suggesting, Timmy, that because a comment was made in an email about certain black men liking white women, that black women just shut off and just ignore everything else? Let me know, Timmy. Let me know. Good morning, Black Rob.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Morning, Black Rob.
Morning, Eddie.
What are your thoughts?
I think that I kind of agree with a lot of what Chrissy said in terms of like, and I think she said something really good that I wanted to point on when she said that how just because what she sees online doesn't dictate what she views of like the majority. And I think that may be something that as the older generations, maybe my age older, because we knew pre-internet and stuff like that. But unfortunately, even though it may not affect us as much, even though I know people our age that it affects, the younger generation, they live and die on the internet. So, and unfortunately, the needle movers in our community, especially in podcasts, all that stuff, are not necessarily the best representation. So the people that drive the conversations normally have silly takes, and it happens to both genders where you get boys saying, "Oh, all these girls are gold diggers" or something like that, just because they know a lot of influencers that have a really warped view of relationships, and then you get girls saying, from especially young age, they're saying, "Oh, all making generalizations out of men," and then because that's all they're consuming, that becomes their worldview, and then it exacerbates it. So I think, while in our, people say touch grass when you go outside, like in reality, like the male and female interactions, especially in the older generations, aren't as toxic as it would display online. The perception will become reality if it doesn't get nipped in the butt, because the younger generations online is the real world. So, and that actually forms their opinions. So like the way Chrissy and I can differentiate between, oh, this is so silly, just shade borough cannon fodder and like just Twitter chat, and then you get to the real world and you really have good relationships with the men around you. The younger generation find it even more harder to differentiate the two, because they form their worldviews online. Like if we had the discussion about how, let's say a white person said, "Oh, I had a bad experience with like a couple of black people, so I think all black people are X," we could easily understand that that is bigotry, racism, whatever, and that's not on. And how can you form a full opinion on a whole group of people based on a small experience? But when we do it in gender, it gets accepted a little bit more. Like you can say what you want about, especially. I know you're gonna say I'm doing man stuff, but like if someone says something about, oh, all men are X, or lots of, or some, or a lot of men are Y based on a small experience, then you get a lot of men that are like, and I kind of get that from the guy that's on the that wrote the letter. He's like, do you know that 50 Cent me, like, what the fuck did I do? It's like you're just living your life and then you're getting bunched in. I think that's the issue that a lot of guys have that are quote unquote just the normal guys that aren't whatever name you want to give them, misogynist, red pill, whatever. You're just a normal guy, but it's like you're getting lumped in with people that you don't identify with, but because you're all being tarnished with the same brush, you feel the need to defend yourself. And even in the act of defending yourself, people are like, "Oh, why we even get called names for trying to defend yourself. So it's like you're caught between a rock and a hard place where you have to take slander when you don't identify with some of the things that are being said about maybe you or your community or whatever. Even if it's not about you, do you know what they say? Oh, if it's not about you, why do you care? It's like I think you should care, because even if it's not about you, like I don't identify with a lot of the stuff that people say about when they talk about misogyny or that type of stuff. But even if you know that it's not about you, I think it's important to care, because there's going to be other people that get sucked in, and I think the conversation needs to be less toxic so that both sides can reach a happy medium. Because I'll go back to what Chrissy said about like, oh, we need to be talking about like issues in Africa and Caribbeans and politics and that stuff like that. But those things can't get solved if the nucleus family is in disarray. Do you know what I mean? So I think the issue between gender relations, especially in the Black community, is pivotal. That stuff needs to get solved, because everything else predicates after that. You can't solve all these other problems if the family unit is in disarray. So I think, and that starts with how we even look at each other. Like I actually feel sorry for people that, like, especially even men, or both. Let me do both. I feel sorry for the woman that looks at men and thinks most of you are a danger to me, and I feel sorry for the men that look at women and like, oh, you're all just using me. You're just like having such a myopic view of 50% of the population of the world. Imagine if you genuinely believe 50% of the population of the world could potentially be harmful to you. I actually don't believe most people that say that believe that, because if you believe that, your head would be on a swivel. Imagine if you thought 50% of the population could potentially, your head would be a swivel all the time. And I know women's experiences are different, but when you really look into it, and people don't like the data, but it's always like a small subset of men that are doing all of the madness, but because they do it so frequently, it looks outsized. But in reality, there's actually a lot of like decent people. So I think we need to make sure that these discussions need to be had, because especially when it comes to men and women, men need to hold the 20% of men that do madness to task, so that things can be easier, and vice versa. But chastising the other 80% that are good doesn't work in the interest of the goals we're trying to achieve, because those are the people. Do you know what I mean?
Question. This is beautiful so far. And in the beginning, it sounded as though we were focusing on the interracial stuff a bit too much, right?
I was using it as an example.
I hear you. But you suggested as though this is only existing on social media, and then it's influencing the younger generation, right? So it's not really happening within the older generation. And when I say it's not really happening, this was a loaded email. Several themes were mentioned in this particular email. One of those particular themes spoke about men wanting their wives to be submissive, and there's an issue with that, right? Them being called controlling. I don't think that's just a social media thing. Or am I misunderstood?
Yeah, it's with the whole submissive thing. It's like I've learned that half of it is in delivery. Like there's a visceral reaction to that word, so you could explain the exact same thing but not use that word. And then I found that if I explain what I mean when I say submissive without even know what's submissive, I've learned that a lot of times the women in my life or the women I know actually like, oh yeah, I can mess with that. But when you use the word submissive, it's like there's a visceral reaction. So half the time is how you communicate what you're trying to express. But a lot of them aren't really, in my experience, aren't opposed to what is being communicated. They just don't like that word.
Also, I thank you much so far, Black Rap. Also, you mentioned there's 20% of bad guys that perpetuate these things in which it is that you're framing women don't like, and the 80% are being bungled into that particular 20%, right? Question: would some people in this particular community call you part of the 20?
Yeah, of course, but I've learned that definitions mean nothing to a lot of people. So, like as I said, with the term misogyny, I think me and who's it? Was it Izzy? We had a little chat in the Discord about the definition of misogyny, and misogyny actually means the hatred of women. I do not hate women, but that doesn't mean that. But as I said, in the 70s, they decided to repurpose the word misogyny to mean a wider array of things outside of the hatred of women. So, and I remember you gave a definition like, oh, if you tell someone they if you give a woman a compliment at work or something and it's unwarranted, that could be misogynistic. If you tell someone to lower their voice, that's misogynistic. So it became such a broader term. So if this new age definition, then yes, I am. because it covers so much that I think most men would be, because of the amount of stuff that I think, in my opinion, are stupid that it covers. But if you use the actual definition, then I'm not, because it's quite binary.
So you've gone straight for the misogyny thing without being prompted.
I use that because we spoke about that before.
Right. So that's one of the things that I believe that a lot of women complain about with regards to men, right? Especially black men, because we're talking about this particular community, right? So more than 20% of black men, in your estimation, do you think they look to present practices, behavior of a misogynistic mindset?
So it goes back to definition. Are we using the actual definition or the politicized definition?
So this is where you're going to get stuck in it. You're basically saying that
the
definition has been changed to basically allow women the opportunity to call men misogynistic.
I'm not saying that. It's a fact. That's exactly what happened. So, because when you say you're saying that, it's like you're making it sound like subjective.
Fair. My wording,
happened.
My framing. So the breakdown that I shared the other week, you disagree with all those things. Those aren't.
Once again, I don't disagree with it. It's a fact that there was a time in the 70s where it changed, where the definition was added on, things were added to it.
Do you not think that definitions kind of always need to be broadened when society moves on and you're now able to see different reflections of said thing that cause the same outcome?
No. So this is what I think we should do, because like, for example, I'm going to go back to racism because it's an easy example. Racism originally meant like it was interpersonal. It was like so someone could be racist to another person. Then it got broadened to meant systematic and institutional. Now, and so that means like companies and institutions and like things like that could be racist. So that became part of the term racism. But why was that lumped into the word racism when there was actually a term for it? It was institutional racism. It's a systematic racism. Those two terms actually explained what that was, and then racism was. So you could actually, so you lumped something in to something to racism that actually had its own definition. You just had to put another word before it. So now you muddy the waters because you consolidated two different words into one when they already had two different. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I do. Do you also have a problem with the breakdown or the evolution of the word misandry and misandry. All of the broader? Who said that?
Do you say misogyny or misandry?
Misandry.
Okay, yeah.
Because there was also a breakdown of that, and it included things like men are trash.
Yeah, I'm consistent. Yeah.
So yes, you don't want that to be called misandry?
No, misandry means the hatred of men.
It's so interesting how you think there's only one way to hate man or woman. But the examples given, it falls into that particular umbrella of hatred. But yet you think there's just one way.
What's your definition of hatred then? Because so the definitions you gave, you said, if someone, I remember you said a couple ones like, if someone gives an unwarranted compliment, that's considered misandry. If someone tells a woman to like lower her voice, that's misogyny. Would you constitute those things hatred?
I don't think it's overt hatred. I do believe it stems from a hatred of. I do believe so.
You're doing Jordan Peterson now.
No. But you've asked me a question. You've asked me a question, and you want me to say what you want.
Okay, that's true.
I don't understand what that means.
Go for it.
I can decipher or perceive hatred, even if it's not bang in the face. Do you understand? I live in a world that is so nuanced. They've had to hide behind different ways of doing things because they know they're going to be maligned or pulled up, or HR is going to basically fire them for being overt. So there are different ways to basically do the same thing. I live in a world where that exists day in, day out. So I can't unsee that. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then that's how you muddy the water. So let's say there could be two situations. Two men can tell two separate women, oh, could you lower your voice or something? Maybe one of them could be like genuinely be like, oh, she was speaking loudly. I would have told anyone to lower their voice. I'm on the phone sign. And the other one could have been like doing microaggression, racism, whatever. But then that speaks to intent, and you don't know. So, but outwardly, both of them are considered misogynistic based off of the definition that we're using now, right? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do. Pause for a
And
second.
that's why
Let me just introduce Izzy Bambino, because he might be able to help you also, because I think he's here for you too. Good morning, Maggie, and good morning, Izzy Bambino.
Good morning, Maggie and Izzy.
Morning.
All right, Izzy Bambino, what are your thoughts before I go to Maggie? All right, you need to fix your phone, young man. Maggie, what are your thoughts?
Hi. Hi, Brent. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning. I just wanted to say, I think these conversations, they get so stuck in the extremes. So the examples that Black Rob is bringing up in terms of like, you can't compliment women, or you can't make a comment in terms of like maybe ask a woman to like lower her voice. We're not, those are not the issues that we're actually focused on. We're talking about where it's that entitlement to be able to, if I don't want you to approach me, or if I don't want you to sexualize me in a way, I can say that without repercussions from a man. So for instance, like recently, someone approached me on the street. I said, I'm not interested, but he was quite polite and just, was like, okay, kept it moving. But there's been many occasions where it's not been polite. It's been like turned into like shouting at me. I've had men spit at me on the street just because I didn't want to give my number. That's what we're talking about. And the thing is that why we focus on those like behaviors is because we need to start like addressing the root in terms of like how men and women interact with each other. There are things that there are ways that men will not talk to other men like that, yet will talk to other women like that, and that's the issue. So also, I also get really frustrated in terms of like, when people say like not all men. Yeah, when we talk about the race discussion, we often say we know not non-Black people are racist. However, we don't know if you are a racist person or not. So we move with an air of caution. And I feel like a lot of men understand that, a lot of Black men understand that because they're facing the same oppression. But when it comes to gender-based oppression, they don't understand that why, as a woman, you may be cautious about men that you don't know and how they behave. And even men that you do know, I'm still cautious because I don't know what you're doing behind closed doors. So many women and girls have faced abuse from people that they know, not strangers on the street, people within their family, people within their friend group, being roofied at parties by somebody that you know, somebody that you went to the party with. So I feel like, and I was talking to TC in the chat, I get it, there's a lot of miscommunication from both sides. There's a lot of nonsense online about gender wars and politics, but also I think we kind of miss the whole point that we're out here, the stakes are really high for women. And I think what it is that we just cannot continue to the continuous generational curse that our parents, our grandmothers went through. We don't want to do that anymore. And I think that some men need to maybe examine, like, why does women's fight against oppression feel so uncomfortable to them?
Exactly, Maggie.
Can I jump in? Hey,
Yes.
Maggie. Yeah, all the examples you gave were no one's disputing those ones. So those are cut and dry. The examples you gave. What I was trying to say was that, and let me use like the anti-Semitic example. When the definition got expanded to basically mean whatever they wanted it to mean, whenever it served their purpose, the problem that had was that it lost its meaning after a while, because then people started realizing the term was used as a political tool to just shut down dissent. Like, so then, because it got used so frequently, people are now just like, whatever, man, I don't even care if you call me that anymore. It doesn't hold any weight because you expanded it so much. And I almost feel like with terms like misogyny and misandry, for example, if it gets expanded too much to mean too many different things, it loses its meaning. And then when you label someone as it, or you identify someone as, oh, you're doing something injustice, it's going to get to a point where some guys are going to be like, oh, whatever, yeah, you call me everything that I don't care anymore. And then it actually does the opposite of what it intended it to do, which was to hold especially the people accountable for behaviors that were not serving women or the community. You know what I'm saying? So I think I'm actually trying to get to the same goal you are, but I'm trying to say that we have to be careful in like expanding it so much that it loses meaning, and then people just fades into the background. It loses its like. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
I understand that, and I agree. Definitely, there's things that kind of water down the subject. But one thing I will say, Black Rob, is that I feel like the discussion always gets stuck on this topic rather than actually addressing the issue. So we always, whenever we want to talk about this, we always go into like, what's the definition of misogyny, instead of like actually addressing like these key issues. How do we start to change societal behavior? How do we make society safer for women? How do we create like safer spaces? It always gets down to like, well, you can't even approach a girl on the street anymore. And that's the thing in terms of like the conversation. I'm saying that you can say that for anything. You can say that for racism as well. You can say that for any kind of like issue where people feel that it gets watered down or it gets politicized. I can't even say the word, but that happens all the time. So, okay, it's happening. Again, can we have a conversation about how we can like make like society safer for people?
That's true. I've got one solution for you. That's true. Let's talk solution. I've got one. And I've been trying to practice this more as well.
Okay.
I think what we do a lot is that we go at, and I do this a lot as well, we go at the behaviors we don't like to see. It's like, oh, you're always talking down on men, and I make some slick comments about X person. I'm like, what we should do more, and we spoke about this in the hair topics, like, why don't we just praise and exalt the big behaviors we like to see? Okay. There's guys that are always saying, oh, women are too this, or women are too masculine, or I don't know whether some guys say, but I was like, why don't you, when you see someone that's presenting the behavior, like, praise them, like, I don't know, do you know what I mean? Rather than, because we know how to shout down the people that are not, that behaving in the ways that we don't like to see, but why don't we praise the behaviors that we like to see more? Because people like, it's like social proof. People like, people do more of what they think people like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can I ask what that looks like? Rob, you kind of wanted to say an example just now, what you stopped.
Yeah, because I'm a changed man.
No, go on. Let me hear how it sounds coming from your lips, mate.
So for example, this is me. I was saying to my missus that we listen, and I don't wanna, I know you're cool with all of them, but like I listen to lots of different podcasts. So I listen to Reese to see sometimes, and then I also listen to my sisters, or for my sisters. They're like these two Christian girls.
Yep.
And if I'm totally honest, I stopped listening to Receipt because I just didn't like the advice that they were giving people. And I was just like, this is the next generation of, there's predominantly, I always hear people calling and saying, I've been listening to you since I was 14, I'm 22 now. And like, yeah, down with men. I'm like, yeah, okay. So and then I listened to for my sister's podcast, and they get people writing, and maybe and I like the feedback that they give people, and the advice that they give on, and they're both Black women podcasts, so they probably serve similar audiences, but I just like that they're a bit, in my opinion, less. They're more solution to the problem than adding to it, in my opinion, when it comes to the gender dynamic stuff. So I'm just like, I'm voting my feet. I stopped listening to the Receipt. I listened to it for my sister. So they'll get my engagement. They'll get my viewership. Maybe I'll buy some tickets. I buy some tickets for my female friends to go to their live show. So that's me. Rather than like typing like a dodgy comment under someone's or saying or just saying how much I don't like something, I'm like, let me just not say anything about that, and let me just encourage the thing that I like to see and vote with my pocket.
Can I also add to that,
Do you get what
Black
yeah.
Rob? I would say, just to add to that, also, if in terms of like, if a man is a black man is looking for a traditional partnership or stuff like that, I have no issue with that. I just know that I am not that person.
And
So
that's
I
fair,
think
yeah.
as much as that we can show good behavior, but also we have to just like let people do what they want to do. So I'm not out here trying to be like, okay, all men need to be like this. I'm just like, just don't be a danger to me and other women. That's my only like caveat. If you want to be a provider, if you want to be traditionalist, that's completely up to you. But I think sometimes there's this thing of women as a general need to be doing this, women need to be doing that, women need to be
Exactly,
submissive.
period.
Your partner needs to be submissive if that's what you're looking for, absolutely. But I don't think you need to push that agenda on other people. And then also, as much as showing good behavior, we have to call out bad behavior. I think about like the whole thing with like the Diddy situation, the Tory situation. Why are we actively trying to protect people that are a detriment to our community? Why is that an attack on black men rather than just an attack on predators? And that's one of the things that I think that we as a community we're really lacking, because it means that young boys and girls are just left so vulnerable because we're prioritizing certain people just because they have money or fame. What are we doing? So that's the other thing I would say. It's like setting a good example, but also we just have to call out those people that are a detriment to the rest of us.
But I do think that's the internet thing. I think if most people are, I think most people aren't defending Diddy or whatever, but like I think on social media, you're always
an internet thing, but yeah. I'm having these conversations in real life with people, and it's not just limited. People, internet definitely makes it sound like it's bigger than maybe sometimes it is, but I feel like we use that as an excuse. Like internet represents what people. There's a lot of people that are happily tweeting, commenting their thoughts, and I always think about the people in their life that are maybe going through something similar, seeing those comments that they're happily commenting underneath like shade room posts and stuff like that. It's not limited to internet thing. I think a lot of us experience this in real life, and I, for one, I'm just as tired as the writer of that email. I feel fatigued, and like Christy was saying, I don't engage in a lot of like the discourse online, apart from here on TDA, of course. But I do think that there are some things that we need to address, and the protection of like young Black boys and girls is definitely something that we need to do better, instead of like protecting people just because they're rich.
But sorry, could I jump in?
Sorry, Maggie. Thank you very much.
So I just wanted to check if my mic is.
Good morning, easy. It's working now. Well done. Remember the settings, please.
Sorry, I probably missed. Okay, go on. I will do for next time. I probably missed a few of the last convos in the last minute, but I guess to get back to the email, to caveat what I'm going to say, I don't know exactly what episode it's a response to, so I'm not sure what energy he was in when he sent it in, but I guess to somewhat understand his viewpoint, I think the main theme that came across to me was somewhat contradiction. I don't want to make it a gender thing, but I guess when you hear some people talking about, for example, men not taking misogyny seriously whilst also practicing misandry whilst they're doing it, it kind of goes on deaf ears. Same way if you hear someone talking about, I guess, racism whilst also making racist tropes about another group, you probably wouldn't take their point that seriously. And I guess maybe to fast forward in terms of where this convo has gone, I feel that it does come across at times that this whole gender wars narrative is only valid where the criticism is on black men. Whereas when this, I guess, for example, this email came across and it was somewhat more critical of black women, and then the conversation just shifted towards it's just an internet narrative, it's not real. But then in the same breath, when we flipped it to where women are being discussed, we understand that these narratives can be real and should be taken seriously. So I feel, although yes, women are victims and their issues should be taken seriously, I feel this need to shift any conversation where a black man has some issues to discuss always gets flipped and framed as not serious is a bit of an issue.
Thank you so far. So go on.
I wanted to ask to the men on the panel, do you genuinely feel concerned, like on a daily basis, about misandry?
That's the easy answer. Black Rob, please find yourself back on stage, please. You've been asked the question.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
I mean, I guess the issue is what you would define as misandry, because you could go as deep as saying
whatever you define it as, is it something that in your day-to-day life that is a concern for you? Genuinely asking.
I mean, if you give me the rope to say whatever, then I guess, yeah, I think the main one would be the expectation for men to be the sole providers or the financial breadwinners in their relationships. I mean, that's probably one. I think, I don't know if Brent has the link to the breakdown I shared on Discord, but I think that did come up as one of them, like this expectation for men to be the sole financial providers, or I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I'm saying the expectation placed on men generally is a form of misandry. The same way there's nothing wrong with women wanting to cook, or placing that expectation on all women would be misogyny.
But isn't that a symptom of patriarchy? Like we've established that misandry is about the hatred of men. I see misogyny, the hatred of women. And when I think of misogyny, I'm not thinking about some men thinking that I should be a housewife or something like that. I'm thinking about danger, and that for me is something that I constantly do think about when I'm out and about, in terms of like who's standing near me, where I am, what time I'm coming home. So
Facts, Maggie.
I think in terms of like misandry,
100%.
Being the sole provider, I think that's more about patriarchy and societal pressures on men. And I do agree that that is a societal pressure, but I don't see that is not misandry. So again, my question is, does misandry impact your daily life?
But just to, I guess, respectfully somewhat push back, we had this same conversation, I think, a few weeks ago, where Brent read out the breakdown for misogyny, those same non-violent examples, and there was no pushback. And then I gave an example of also a non-violent example of misandry, but there was pushback. So I think, I'm not saying you're wrong, because obviously the violent examples are the most significant, but I guess that difference in approach is probably what speaks to the email and his response.
Question, Izzy. I read that out on live, and then we saw the commentary in the chat, right? Where did you share your breakdown?
It was on the Discord.
And what pushback or non-pushback did you see from you sharing? Because I only saw the men agreeing with you.
No, I mean now. So, for example, on the show, you read out the non-violent examples of misogyny, and I think that was taken respectfully, understanding that misogyny can take different forms.
Yes.
I used that same prompt, just switched it to misandry,
and you shared
gave an example
Discord,
here,
right?
And then I guess the first response was, well, it's not violent, but that same pushback wasn't given with the misogyny breakdown.
It's not the absence of violence. It's just that that is more about patriarchy and societal pressures. It's not misandry. It's not a hatred of men. that society has like a stereotype that men should be providers. Not to say that it doesn't impact men. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's not misandry. Anyway,
But
Black
doesn't
Rob, the dictionary. Like, well, what's your
I
definition?
guess would
doesn't
that
this prove? Sorry, can I
would
go?
that response apply to all examples of misandry then? And in that case, would that not also speak to the emails, I guess, narrative about how men aren't really seen as serious victims of any wrongdoing?
So let's go back to the question that. Thank you so far, Izzy. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Black Rob, Maggie asked a question. I think she said, "Are you?" Ask the question again, please, Maggie. Something about afraid of misandry or something like that. Are you fearful of misandry? Maggie.
Do you think about misandry in your daily? Oh,
Yeah, that was the question. Does misandry impact your your daily life, like day to day?
Does misandry impact my
I
life?
genuinely worried about, I don't know, like misandrous like women.
I don't worry about anything. I know it sounds like a cop out, but no, I think, yeah, I don't worry about anything on a daily basis. But yeah, no, so no. But that speaks to a lot of things that maybe I should. Maybe I don't worry about racism on a daily basis. Maybe I should, but I don't. I think that's just more my temperament than anything.
Does that help you?
I think the reason why I asked the question is just that whenever we talk about, I think it was to Izzy's point about talking about misandry and misogyny in terms of like a comparison. And for me, I liken it to like when non-Black people talk about reverse racism. Definitely, Black people can be like ignorant. Definitely, Black people can be prejudiced, all of that. And, you know, if you want to say Black people can be racist, but they're not equivalents to compare to each other. The same way with reverse colorism, for me, it's not the same thing.
But this speaks to what I was saying about the fact that I think earlier you spoke about, oh yeah, misogyny to me means X, Y, Z. You spoke of some examples, and then you said some examples that you don't think it is. But then the current definition means that the examples that you thought it wasn't actually are examples. So the fact that people can't agree on what misogyny is because it's such a broad stroke means that it could be it's a Swiss Army knife. It can be used for whatever purpose you need it to be, which is why I was so harping on about definition, because when you can use it for whatever serves the purpose in the moment, then it means nothing. And then when it means nothing, it's hard to identify. When it's hard to identify, either everyone is or no one is, and then people just lose interest in the conversation.
But I agreed with you in your summation previously. I agreed that things do get watered down, and I think Izzy's talking about men having to be providers as an example of something being watered down. But my point is, it still always stands in terms of even watered down or not watered down. My simple question is like, you know, whenever we talk about misogyny and trying to create like safer spaces, or women talking about trying to gain like equal rights and stuff like that, misandry gets thrown in the conversation. And I'm always just a bit like, well, why are we here? And then I ask the question genuinely, like, do you worry about misandry? And I think most men don't, unless it's in response or rebuttal to misogyny.
All right. So,
but do you think worried about something?
Sorry, pause, please, Black Rob. Pause. Let me give a little context. Let me read out some subtle examples of misandry. Because Maggie, you just said just now that women wanting equal rights is seen as misandry from men in some circles.
No, that's not an example of misandry. You can't send to the
Black Rob. Wait, I'm asking your question.
No, repeat that. Sorry, I didn't hear.
You just intimated that in some circles, when women talk about wanting equal rights, men think that that's misandry.
Yes.
Oh, I've never heard that in my life.
I see it in the chat all day, Brent.
Misandry. You see men saying that's misandry?
I literally, every time we talk about misogyny and stuff like that, the feminism word gets brought into the conversation, and it's basically like, oh, you know, you guys want like equal rights and stuff like that, and it's seen as like an attack on like men. Whereas I'm always like, well, me wanting to have equal rights and safe like environments, why does that feel like an attack on you? Why does that feel like I'm against black men or men in general?
Interesting. All right.
Oh, I agree with Christy's point. We're not addressing the points of the email. Sorry, I'm going to stop talking.
No, don't feel like you need to be silenced. We've gone a particular way, but we'll get back on track. Don't worry. Let me read some examples of covert misandry, right? Just to even the playing field so that Izzy Bambino and Black Rob are vindicated. Let's do the first topic, which is emotional dismissal, right? Some examples. Man up culture. Expecting men to suppress feelings or pain with phrases like stop crying or real men don't talk too much. Secondly, mocking men's vulnerability. Laughing when a man expresses hurt or says he needs emotional support, implying that emotional support are soft or less masculine. Number 3, saying men want to be the woman these days. When men express emotional depth, seek care, or challenge gender norms. Second group here is language and stereotyping. All men are trash as a default stance, not an expression of hurt. Secondly, assuming men are naturally incompetent or selfish in relationships, parenting, or emotional intelligence. For example, men are useless with kids, or he'll never plan anything right. Thirdly, dismissing male opinions on gender issues as invalid solely because they are male, even if expressed respectfully. Third grouping, parenting and family dynamics. Minimizing fatherhood, treating dads as babysitters or helpers rather than equal partners. Secondly, assuming women are always the better parent in custody battles or emotional decision making. And thirdly, mocking men who want full custody or to be stay-at-home dads as weak or suspicious. Another grouping, professional and social assumptions. Assuming men are automatically aggressors or abusers in any conflict. Secondly, men being overlooked for nurturing or caregiving roles, e.g. teaching, nursing, therapy, due to assumptions they're less emotionally capable. And thirdly, mocking men who work in creative or lower paying industries as being less of a man. Another grouping, relationship double standards. Expecting men to pay, protect, and lead, while also ridiculing them if they expect traditional values in return. Shaming men for having standards or preferences, especially if those preferences include softness, femininity, or submission. That's a big one for the Izzy Bambinos and the Simrads and that, them man there. Thirdly, judging men for dating younger, less successful, or more peaceable women, but not holding the same scrutiny for women who date up. Ooh, that's a big, big grouping. And the last grouping, media and cultural reinforcement. Male pain being used as a punchline in sitcoms or online debates, e.g., men being cheated on equals funny. Women being cheated on equals tragic. Secondly, publicly celebrating a woman leveling up by leaving a man, but mocking men who walk away from toxic dynamics as weak or emotionally immature. And thirdly, portraying men as perpetual liabilities or man children in pop culture. So all of those that I read out, Maggie, are those examples, accurate examples of misandry?
Do I agree with the definition or those examples?
Well, the definition was definition. Then, as with the other example of broadening out the definition, there are examples present. So the same with misogyny, we've now done misandry. So do you agree with all of those?
No, I don't. No.
Did you agree with all of the misogynistic ones that I read out way back when?
I can't remember them.
Would you like me to run through it?
No. I feel like we've read the conversation.
Just a social experiment.
I think like I said, I'll go back to my original point. Like, it's just like every time we talk about like misogyny, the misandry topic comes up, and I don't see it come up just like by itself. And when we're talking about the protection of like young boys and stuff like that, a lot of that conversation is led by women. So yeah, and also just going back to the email, I took from it, just me personally, I took it as like where he's tired of women being vocal and complaining, and that yeah, we've made a mistake, but we need you to stop reminding us that. That's what I took from the email. I don't really care if he's dating white women or not. I have no care for that. That's fine.
Thank you.
I didn't actually take that from the email, to be honest. I can't lie. I disagree. I didn't take that from the email. No, him mentioning that, I don't know that he's specifically, I think he said others have left, or I don't know that he spoke for himself.
Definitely.
Oh,
I don't think he spoke for
fine.
himself. He said he's in his friend group that has happened where they've left. And to the ones that have left, I say good riddance and goodbye. That's fine.
But then I think implying
I think there's valid points. Sorry, I think there's valid points in, I guess, this tiredness feeling of if certain things are said, it's going to be shot down, and I do feel like that's a thing. And I'm going to be a broken record. I definitely feel like social media has not helped that. So when you say certain things, even going back to Black Rob's, like the broadening of the definitions and stuff, it's like saying shouting fire in a crowded theater. Basically, I would give the analogy. So it just gives that whole certain people. I feel like certain people have watered down the definition of certain terms so much that they're just throwing it willy-nilly, and that doesn't help. So when it gets thrown around willy-nilly and you're just blanketing a certain comment or whatever it may be, and I'm saying the women, what tends to happen is immediately there's a defense. So when the men now move to a defensive stance, this is where the problem arises, because then we're now going back on the defensive, back and forth. And I feel like that's what the problem is lying. Each side gets their back up when a certain word is mentioned, a certain trigger word, which again, social media has created a social stance with it. So like certain buzzwords like submissive, masculinity, femininity, feminism, misogyny, all them kind of things have become buzzwords and trigger words. And we're not really getting to the root. So when you hear that, it's just like all the social commentary just gets thrown on top and piled on a pile. We don't even get to address anything. We don't get to address anything. So where we can't even address the Diddy issue with an unbiased thing, we're now tarring the Diddy issue with a day-to-day guys that think that's now an attack on them. How is that an attack on them? Are you moving like that in real life? Because if your behaviors in real life are suspect, then why would you have an issue with the valid critique of Diddy? I don't get that. But for some reason, the highest form of like abuse and stuff is now being equated to the lower forms, and it's muddying the waters, and I don't get that. So now you're getting your back up at someone talking against Diddy, and you've used Diddy as a representation of, I need to stand up for the black man. Are you a fool? That makes no sense to me. And that's what tends to happen, even on the other side, even on the women's side as well. It will then become, what example can I use? Like even someone mentioned it, like the slum flower. She now becomes like that. You've put that on. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like me personally, she's an agent of chaos. I don't know how she helps women, but that's just me. She's 100% the epitome of a misandrist, whatever you want to call it. She's an agent. I don't care what no one says. But it's people like her who are fueling such discourse where we can't get anywhere.
But that's why nuance is so important. And I liked the point you made. Like the example I give is that, like, do you know, like when you grew up, when you were in ends, like, and you knew who the drug dealers were, or the gang members were, whatever, but you live near them, but the police keep stopping you because of what they do, because they can't tell the difference between the two of you. At some point, you're gonna get frustrated because you're like, I'm not doing this, but you keep thinking I'm like them just because we live near each other. And that's kind of like the analogy I'd use for these discussions. Like, when if the police had nuance and could differentiate between the bad breeds and then just the normal guy that just goes to school and he lives near them, but he's not about that life, then they could probably better do their job, because they know who to go after and who to allocate their resources to. And I think these discussions, when we're able to use nuance, then people will stop being defensive. When men and women are having discussions about the opposite sex, but don't use broad strokes to describe people and actually get to the root of, okay, like the example I gave, I had to use examples, but I use, because I don't want to say, oh, all these women podcasts are always, because that's a silly way of talking, and then it causes people to be defensive, and then people feel the need to defend their team. It's like, no, I like those girls, so I'm going to defend them, even though, or are you talking about me? But if I say, no, I'm speaking about a specific subset, like I spoke about, like a specific subset group of people, and I was trying to be specific, so I knew that people knew who I was talking about without alienating the ones that it doesn't apply to, so that we can have the discussion. But if you go, oh, all you women are blah blah blah, then we know where it's going to go from here, isn't it? But if I say, oh yeah, no, there's a certain type of girl that does this, that, and that, and I know that you're not like that, but like there's still a group of them, and they're quite vocal, and they have quite a lot of influence, because a lot of them have big media presences, but they don't represent the full breadth of what women are like, especially black women. You got all types of black women, but it seems like there's a small subset of them that are overrepresented in media, and they all share similar values that may not be beneficial for the. And it sounds like a long disclaimer, but when I say all that, you know who I'm talking about, and you know it's probably not you. So then we can have the discussion without you getting defensive, and that's what we ask a lot of times of the men. We want to know that, like, you're not just saying all of us are this, because when you do that, we get defensive, we turn off, or we just bite back. And we need to do it both ways, and then we can come up with solutions. Hello? Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, it was fantastic. And what is it you said before, Christy? That was just on point. That was sensational. Sensational. Vaughn said earlier there should be a community service episode. I mean, I've done the headlines, and I was about to bust out of here. And that's why it looked like I wasn't listening to you just now, Black Rob. I was just getting my stuff on. This has been fantastic. Absolutely amazing. I may do a community service episode, but definitely not this month. It may be next month. It'll be easier for me to do it next month. When I say this month and then flipping finished. But I need to go. So everybody who's contributed so far, Christy, amazing, sensational. Maggie, sensational. Black Rob, sensational. Easy Bambino, sensational. Eddie, sensational. Thank you very much for your contributions and keeping this particular broadcast running. You guys have been absolutely sublime. I want more of the nuance and less of the sweeping generalizations and extreme views and this, that, next. That's how it is. We make some progress. And we have the best of the best here. We got the best of the best here. Moderators, anytime it is that you see any trolls causing havoc in the chat, please just zap them out quick. Please do not let me have to come and read it and then remove them. Please get trigger happy. We do not want any trolls like we had in the chat. Just remove them quick. Boom, 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 boom. Bam. You're not going to get any grief from me. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. I am going to say goodbye. Black Rob F you for basically saying that the receipts are trash. You're misguided. They're the best. They're the best of the best of the best. The best of the best. You shall never hear me slander any of my brethren on air other than Emmanuel. And he's told me I could do it because he said all is fair in love and bloody podcasting. He said he's here for the entertainment, and I told him I'm here for the entertainment. So any other friends of mine, and we doing it on my flipping stream, bro, without me looking to defend them. They're the best. And if it is you're tuned in, like since you tuned out, you'd see that they've changed quite a bit. Quite a bit. Anywho, I have to love you and leave you. Thank you. And we will be here at 8 a.m., God willing, tomorrow morning. If it's not 8 a.m., it's going to be 8:15. But even if it is, there's nobody else here, I will be here. I will be here. And shout out the man who basically sent the email in. Like I said, please, can you respond to my email? I asked you several questions. Please respond to that. And if it is that you're brave enough, I beg you, come through, jump in Discord and share more of your thoughts, right? If it is that you felt as though we didn't address your concerns, your exhaustion, I will pull this back up when it is that there are more hosts in. Don't worry about that. But, hey, the people who jumped on Discord, they did a smashing job, in my honest opinion. It opened up that particular dialogue a bit more. Obviously, I wasn't able to ask any questions, but there we go. Anywho, love you all, and a good day. Bye-bye.